Death, Destruction, and Debt, 30 Photos of Life in 1970s New York. An oil slick surrounds the Statue of Liberty in May 1973. Arson became a major problem in the 1970s in New York, rising from just 1% of fires in the 1960s to over 7% of fires in the 1970s. A group plays cards in a burnt-out cafe in the Bronx. A child passes a blazing can in Harlem. Prostitution became a citywide problem in the 1970s, with over 2,400 arrests for the offense in 1976 alone. In the above photograph, negotiations take place on the Bowery. Before becoming famous for its bars and clubs, the Bowery was known for abandoned buildings and a substantial homeless population. Dilapidated side streets like these were common in 1970s New York. People converse in front of the House of Paradise in Times Square. Once the borough of choice for the middle class, the Bronx bore the full brunt of 1970s white flight. Over the course of the decade, the Bronx lost over 30% of its population. The Bronx River became an open sewer for industry and humans alike. In fact, it wasn't until 2007 that towns in Westchester and the Bronx both agreed to stop dumping raw sewage into the waterway. Passers-by look on at a gentleman passed out on the corner of 172nd Street in the Bronx. An elderly woman plays the accordion for change on the subway. A man sits among graffiti in a subway car. A woman waits for her train. The exteriors of the subway system were covered in as much grime as the interiors. That's not to say that the entirety of 1970s New York is a portrait of misery. Above, boys enjoy the city's water from a fire hydrant on Avenue C in the Lower East Side. A group of schoolboys catches the late afternoon show in the Bronx. A group of boys play on the hood of the car in the Bronx in the early 1970s. A group participates in a Central Park quilting bee during the summer of 1973. People observe a number of signs in East Harlem. A group of girls share their Barbie collections on the stoop of a brownstone townhouse in Harlem. Two young women pose in Harlem. Two teenage girls pose for a photograph in Lynch Park, South Williamsburg. Elsewhere, a group of teenagers hang out in the South Williamsburg Park in 1974. People celebrate July 4th in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, 1974. A Puerto Rican wedding takes place. In Harlem, a couple gets married. A Bed-Stuy resident simply known as Big Joe poses for photographer Camilo Jose Vergara.